So imagine this, you're sitting in front of your computer and you got the completely idea that you want to make a turn-based RPG because that's something you grew up playing a lot of. You got your characters all written up, you've got a banging story idea about... Alright, let's cut to the chase. You want to make a kick-ass game where battles are intense and you want to know what kind of battle system you want. Well, you've come to a place to learn. My name is Sonata and welcome to the Space Show. These are the 4 types of turn-based combat. And hey, if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps me out more than you know. So, RPGs are just about my favorite type of game to play in general. Warts and all, I think they're fascinating and I wish I had more time to dedicate to them on a regular basis. There's a lot of different ways to categorize RPGs, and I like a lot of them when they're packaged as such, not just tacking RPG elements onto a game like Assassin's Creed. Turn-based RPGs are probably my favorite though. That being said, not every turn-based RPG is the same, and it's through my time on this bitch of an earth that I found one simple thing. The 4 types of turn-based combat, and how they manifest player behavior. I'm pretty sure they all have actual names, and RPG Maker would have me believe that they're the standard and not just shorthand, but here's what I've got. Speed control, initiative turn, press turn, and active time. You're probably trying to think of that one example that disproves me, and let me tell you, you might be right, but this is for general purposes, and you can do and enjoy whatever the hell you want. I'm trying to help people like me figure out what they want to do for their game, so sit down, listen to my ill-fitting hip-hop beats that I ripped off the internet, and roll the damn tape. Speed control is the first one I'm going to bring up because I have the easiest time gathering footage for it. It's Pokemon, it's literally Pokemon. This is the one that comes natively with most RPG Maker games, if that helps paint a picture for your goofy asses that still use this software. I mean, me too, but still. This battle system is defined by clicking on every character in the party's actions before anything takes place. Character 1, Character 2, Character 3, Character 4, it's like planning out a sequence of things to happen and rolling the dice to see how things play out. Except, I lied. It's not dice you're rolling, it's comparing everybody in combat's speed stat and then creating an order based on that. Here's an example I'm going to frequently use throughout the video. Here's my 4 party members, and I'm just going to use my Final Fantasy team because it's fun to me. Here's 3 enemies. Let's give them all an arbitrary speed value, like this. So, again, we choose all of our actions, and then the speed values determine in what order everything happens, and we do it again, and again, and again. There are ways to change the speed order, most assuredly. Some characters can cast speed-altering spells like Haste or Slow. Most games have updates occur on following round, so my white mage could cast Haste on the red mage, but they wouldn't get to move faster right then and there. Pokemon used to do this, but they changed it in more recent years to update immediately. So far, we've done things on this single axis in linear order. I think this is fine in most cases, albeit very simple. This is a much more proactive type of game. You have to guess what an enemy is going to do on any given turn, and essentially read the room. Knowing your black mage is a high priority target for the enemy team, do you click heal on your slower white mage to instantly heal back the damage? Or do you have your warrior click attack and hopefully defeat the problem before it can do something? It's instances like this that make it fun, specifically for competitive play in things like Pokemon. I know you Champions players are screaming at me in the comments for my team, I'll take your complaints with a super thanks of $5. Here's the thing. Pokemon limits its official competitive format to doubles, which is still plenty difficult, I should add. Only having 2 party members to worry about simplifies things and complicates things at the same time. I actually really like it. I think more than that only works for regular JRPGs with targeting that isn't arbitrarily tied to adjacency. One thing I've been missing is that this single axis is more often than not, never true. That's right, this is a 2-axis combat system at its core. The x-axis is our turn order, and the y-axis is priority, positive or negative. The way this works is that certain moves are given higher priorities in battle. Something higher up will take place before anything else, even if the character using it is technically slower. This chart is read top to bottom, left to right. Say my white mage, the slowest member of the party, uses a spell that has a +3 priority. Well, since that spell is at the top of the list, despite white mage being all the way on the right side of the chart, they get to move first, regardless of speed. This is exactly how Pokemon does it, with moves like Extreme Speed, Quick Attack, and Protect all having heightened priority, allowing them to move before anything else. The only thing stopping them is if there's another move firing off at the same priority, but at a different speed level. I didn't record it, but I actually had a match in Pokemon Champions where we both had our Incineroars out, and of course we both have Fake Out pressure, and we both clicked Fake Out, but their Incineroar was faster than mine, so they won and I got ganked. This actually also works with negative priority, wherever that's applicable. Going last is a strategy you can play around in many games like this, and I think that's pretty cool. These two axes are the cornerstone of this battle system. The only snag is when there's a genuine tie. What happens when two actors have the exact same speed and the exact same priority? Pokemon handles this with a coin flip, and I imagine other games do too, despite how unlikely it is. Our next battle system is called Initiative Turn, and it's here not just because I said it in that order earlier, but because it's also very much related to speed control. Initiative Turn is called that because calling it Standard Turn like RPG Maker plugins want me to makes me sound like I don't get laid, but we all know that that ain't true. I took the idea from Dungeons & Dragons, and there was an earlier script where this was how I started the video, but then I lost confidence for a week and busted this version out, so you know what the hell's going on. Just like before, everything in combat is given a certain turn order based on the speed values. Here's the party from earlier, same turn order and everything. The main difference is that the second priority axis is no longer in play because there's no need for it. The main difference is when the player gets to act and command their party. In Initiative Turn, it's on every character's turn that you get to input an action, and it happens immediately. In some cases, it can charge for another turn later, but most cases, things happen as the character turns come up. I likened this to D&D because that's how a round of combat works. Every player on their turn in the round of combat takes their specific action. They don't queue it up the DM and hope everything goes well. So, how does this work in gameplay? Well, it depends on one thing. Does the player see the turn order? In a lot of cases, yes they do, and they can see how their actions affect how turns play out. In a game like Dragon Quest XI, the turn order is hidden, so you're just reacting to things as they come. Not to say there isn't any planning at all, buffing and debuffing is just as important as anything else, but I feel like hiding the turn order makes things a touch more in the moment. It's certainly a choice, one I'm pretty neutral on. If you can see the turn order, you then get to choose how it's displayed. The most standard way is something like Final Fantasy X, or, for a more recent example, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. You have the turn order, every enemy is on there, your party members are on there, and all is well. As much as I like these games and their battle systems, it's time to talk about the best one, and I'm going to do it in detail because you guys know exactly what you're in for. Monokemia has the best initiative turn battle system ever, and nobody has replicated it, and that makes me incredibly sad. The turn card system has it so that everything is put onto this lineup of cards. Some of them are blank, and everyone filters onto it in between blank cards. Certain abilities create turn cards that reoccur every time they get to the front. Defending allows you to place yourself wherever in the turn order you want. Having these blanks in the turn order allows the system itself to place things onto it without just asserting its whole ass into the turn order and splitting it, or just obscuring what's next. This is the entire turn order, and nothing can be shunted from it for any reason. Or at least I'm not out here trying to create one, if you catch my drift. Part of why it's my favorite stems from one character interacting with it in a fourth wall breaking but completely in character way. Roxas, the 7th party member, directly acts with the turn cards. Whether that's reaching for a group of cards and damaging whatever enemy is within them, grabbing ally cards and pulling them forward in the turn order, or a skill that does more damage if there are more empty turn cards. I haven't played the second game, yet I hear it has better combat. It's also locked to the PS2 because the re-release on PSP didn't get localized. I know this is a non-issue since we have emulation now, but still. To one of my oldest friends, back when I started going by Sonata and became an editor, I hope you land a baddie like Et one day. Since I'm here, to one of my other homies around when I started being called Sonata and thought I was named after the car, Fox Girls, you know what the fuck's going on. Press turn is a bit of an odd one. There are only two sides to the battle, the player and the enemy. The player does their thing with their characters, and then the enemy does their thing with theirs. It's a back and forth of sorts. Where things get interesting is how the player and the enemy actually get to operate. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't actually know how to describe them, but I'm going to try. Man, I wish I knew a YouTuber and streamer who played a fair bit of Shin Megami Tensei games. That'd be a perfect cameo. So every character, instead of relying on their speed value to determine a turn order, offers up a press turn that you can then spend on an action. Sometimes it's 2 depending on how you use it. So, say my party consists of 4 guys. I would get 4 press turns. But here's the thing. The press turns themselves aren't character specific. You can absolutely have one character on one turn burst through all of the press turns to do as much as they physically can. That's kind of the beauty of it all. They replicate this in Persona 5 with the baton pass system, allowing other characters in the party to pass their turn onto another, but press turns are a much simpler way of doing things. Some games with press turns, and I have to say some because I literally don't know, allow the press turn to make 2 actions instead of just 1. It depends on the first action. Okay, so I'm gonna make a very bad comparison. South Park: The Stick of Truth. So in South Park, characters are allowed to use an item before they attack, or cast a spell. But if they do an attack before using an item, they can get bent. That's kind of the system they have in SMT. The press turns can flash and become half press turns. It's like a bonus action. Fam, I don't know. I should actually play SMT4. It's on my 3DS and everything. Usually the impetus for these flashing press turns is weakness exploitation. I think the benefits of press turns is actually the strategy you can initiate. Sometimes it's not evenly distributed. Hell, a lot of RPGs have the enemy boss be able to take multiple actions, while the player only gets their one and done. Press turns make that a lot more apparent because some bosses straight up get to take 4 turns if they so wish, even if their first turn is just giving them 4 more turns. Though they're usually the flashing variant. But also, at the same time, the player can give themselves these flashing press turns if they have a certain item, so there are ways to stack things in your favor if you so wish. One thing the press turns allow you to do is buff yourself and use it in the same turn if you wish, or hell, multi-stack protection abilities if you need to. Granted, you only ever get 1 press turn per character in your party, so if you're given to do challenge runs where you're by yourself, good fucking luck. Shout out to my boy Robin from Robin and Zephyr for being a masochist and doing SMT3 Nocturne Demonless. Twice. Brother is insane. Love that guy. The last one on the list is something that Square basically perfected, and, I'm going to be honest, I don't see anyone attempting at all. Someone, please prove me wrong. I would love to see more attempts at any of these RPG types by any indie dev that isn't initiative turn. Active Time Battle, or ATB as it's going to be called, is the last one on our list, and by sheer numbers alone, is the most common one in Final Fantasy's long-ass history. Final Fantasy 1-3 used speed control. Final Fantasies 4 through 9 used the ATB system. You might be wondering why I'm shortening this one to a 3-letter antonym and not the other 3, because I actively refuse to do so because doing it in the RPG Maker way makes me feel like I drink exclusively Arizona tea. The reason is because it's literally what it's called everywhere else. ATB is defined by this one little gauge on the GUI, the ATB gauge as it's called. Once again, this battle system is defined by a speed value, but it's usually labeled as agility in order to give off the impression that it's anything but a speed value. During battle, this gauge fills up automatically, and it fills up faster depending on if your character is faster. Who wrote this? When it fills, that character gets to take their turn. In most cases, the battle is still running while your character is able to take their turn, so you have to think fast and loose. The enemy is more than capable of doing damage to you while you're thinking, and other characters can absolutely queue up turns waiting for you to make one decision on one. Thankfully, many games using ATB have a wait system as an option, allowing you to actually take your time making decisions, but the intended way in most games is to do it actively. Hell, I think it's more fun that way, mostly because reacting to an enemy's attacks is kinda fun. It's the kind of friction I like in games. ATB also allows the designer to have unique phases, requiring different levels of planning to go into parts of the same fight. Maybe a boss goes into a certain mode that requires certain attacks to break through, and the party has to plan around that. It can also bite them in the ass for not being patient and waiting for certain things to happen. After you select an action, the character then has to go through a charging phase, usually much quicker than the actual turn charge, and then they can perform the action you selected. If a boss or an enemy undergoes a phase change while the character is doing their second charge, tough shit, really! Placed properly, this shouldn't frustrate the player, but it should be a little bit of friction that they feel rubbing against them to make things more interesting. There's an atmosphere of trial and error with ATB. As you gain more skills and learn more about your characters, whether or not they can be switched out or change abilities, Final Fantasy 6 and 5 respectively, you have to learn how to play them optimally. You're not told on any screen how long a spell takes to charge or any special move. You have to dive right in and learn, and remember how long it takes for everything you deem worthy of remembering. Some things took longer, some things were tied to you having good stats, as all things are. Who the fuck wrote this? I think ATB is such a wonderful way of updating a formula. You have to understand, ATB came on the heels of Final Fantasy III, which was a speed control battle system. Imagine playing Golden Sun and then suddenly Chrono Trigger. That's the progression we have going on. So what does all this mean? To you guys who, I'm assuming, are more interested in making a game, what with the RPG Maker forums closing by year's end, how do you choose what type of battle system to use? The honest answer is that I think you should try them all extensively, and don't be afraid to change your shit halfway through if you feel you need to, especially if your game is short and you want the combat to feel really good to use. You have to be able to make some changes if they don't feel great. Though, for other people, maybe you're more interested in something that's good enough and want to branch out from there. When it comes to favorites, I think it's hard for me to decide. I have relatively little experience when it comes to press turns, so by default it's my least favorite. Not most disliked, but least favorite. Out of the other three that I have more knowledge of, I think it's pretty clear that I love Initiative Turn, with a turn display. I specifically can't get enough of how Monokemia does it. I fucking love Monokemia, dog. It's one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. No other Atelier game is quite like it, and that makes me sad! I think every single battle system has its own strengths and weaknesses. Speed control lends itself to more strategy in the short term, more planning out of every single turn, and more devastation when things go wrong. It requires as many decisions at once as you have party members, and it has the capacity to be overwhelming. I don't personally think anything built in this style is too much to handle. I mean, Final Fantasies 1 through 3 exist, but I think the capacity is there. Especially because the second you click the action on the final party member, you're running that shit. That being said, up until you do that, you have infinite time in the world to go back and rethink what you're doing. No other system really has that power unless it features a time manipulation system on top of battles, allowing you to reverse the turn order and redo your actions differently. Having to make X amount of decisions every so often might be more appealing than having to make a decision more often. Proactivity. If you still want turn-based combat but want it to feel more reactionary, Initiative Turn and Active Time are right there. Initiative Turn gives players a bit more freedom in how they express themselves, no time limit on how they perform specific actions and such. Though, the option for ATB to have stop timers when a character performs an action is always there. Or at least, it should be. It's even in Final Fantasy VII Remake, man, no excuses. If you're a super nerd that likes RPG Maker, you can usually find a lot of scripts and plugins that totally replace the default speed control battle system inherent to these engines. Hell, for RPG Maker MZ, it's an option to use something like ATB, but it's a bit weird from what I hear. I don't actually have much experience with MZ in specific. If you're looking for gold star games that use these battle systems that I wholesale recommend and are relatively easy to access in 2026, Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance for speed control, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 for Initiative Turn, Metaphor Refantasio for Press Turn, and Final Fantasies 4 through 6 for ATB. Some of the games that I can recommend are on screen now. With all that said, my name is Sonata. Thank you for watching. If you're still here, don't forget to subscribe.